What is going on, everyone? Anthony here, and welcome back to another video here on LTRE. Now, I'm a little late to making this video, and it's nothing real news-related or news-heavy, but I wanted to discuss Shinji Mikami's thoughts on a Dino Crisis Remake in 2024. Now, this was in a recent interview with Eurogamer, where he was actually asked about the Dino Crisis Remake, because Capcom Survey, as you guys know, and I did a whole video on it, was overwhelmingly positive with Dino Crisis Remake. I mean, that was essentially the main thing fans wanted to see, according to that survey, and that was brought up to him in this interview. So let's read to see what he had to say about Dino Crisis Remake. Resident Evil and Dino Crisis creator Shinji Mikami said he doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of space for a new Dino Crisis game thanks to the success of Capcom's Monster Hunter. So he was speaking to Eurogamer at Gamescom with regards to the forthcoming Shadows of the Damned remaster. Mikami discussed the topic of a new Dino Crisis game. It's the series that most Capcom fans want to see return, according to the survey. And Mikami said that he was surprised at the fan reaction to Dino Crisis, but it seems the popularity of Monster Hunter has put him off continuing the series. I'm very surprised to hear that, said Mikami, in relation to fans wanting more Dino Crisis. The awesomeness of dinosaurs and the stuff you can do with dinosaurs, it's been kind of really nailed down by Monster Hunter in recent years. And then he also goes on to say, so even if I were to decide to make a remake or a new version of Dino Crisis, I don't really feel like there's a whole lot of space for that kind of game right now, just since Monster Hunter has become such a big game. But yeah, it's surprising. When Capcom announced Exoprimal, its online dinosaur-inspired shooter, many fans jumped to Dino Crisis only to be disappointed. The concept is pretty different from that of Dino Crisis, said Mikami, when I compared the games. I guess the fans get their expectations up, but here we are. So that's all that Mikami had to say about Dino Crisis in this, and he referenced Monster Hunter and Exoprimal, and I think for him referencing, Exoprimal, for one, I will say that that was a bit of a disappointment for fans because, I mean, all the assets are there for the dinosaurs, and they still did something dinosaur-related, even with Monster Hunter out there. You know what I mean? It's not like just because Monster Hunter is out there, Capcom is like, we can't touch dinosaurs, Now, was Exoprimal really successful? Not really. I mean, the player base kind of dwindled really quickly. I did check it out, and I played it, and it was kind of fun, but I just didn't really stick with it. It didn't really stick with me. I thought it ran pretty well. It was fun when you had a full team, but it didn't really keep the player count, and I think it was a kind of a missed opportunity to maybe add a storyline or something else going on with an Exoprimal. But I see what he is saying here about fans getting their expectations up, thinking it's going to be like a Dino Crisis, right? When right from the start, when we saw that it was like PvP or like team versus team, player versus player with the dinosaurs and like with fighting and everything like that, spawning the dinosaurs, that kind of thing, it wasn't going to have the Dino Crisis vibe. Now, when it comes to Monster Hunter, which I've been getting into the last couple of years and understanding how fun Monster Hunter is, it's very fun. I mean, there's several monster types. Some of them are reminiscent of, dinosaur-like creatures, sure. But I don't think just because Monster Hunter is, one of Capcom's successful IPs, it is. But just because of that, I don't think there's no room for Dino Crisis. I mean, they have the RE engine that's going to form into the Rex engine, appropriately titled while we're talking about dinosaurs. But I don't understand why, he doesn't really see this happening because, yeah, Monster Hunter is selling like crazy. And maybe if Dino Crisis came out, sure, as a business side of things, it might not really sell as well as a Monster Hunter or a Resident Evil remake, because Dino Crisis is very popular for the hardcore fans and people that have been there since the beginning, seeing these games come out in the late 90s and early 2000s. But I think for a lot of people that are playing Monster Hunter, they might not even know what Dino Crisis is, but that doesn't mean they can't get into it just because it's a brand new remake from the ground up in a new engine and everything else. I think there's still room for it. I know Monster Hunter is pretty dominant in their brand of games, but I don't see why they can't do another experiment with dinosaurs again in this fashion. I mean, look, they did a whole Exoprimal game just around dinosaurs, so it's not like Capcom's mindset isn't, we could still market this as, something fun with dinosaurs. I mean, Mikami isn't inside Capcom anymore. He's not making these decisions. But I will say that, I understand what he is saying in terms of, from a business standpoint, he doesn't really understand why they would even go in that direction. considering they're so successful with this other IP over here. But that doesn't mean they can never go back and do a Dino Crisis remake. I mean, look, even if it sells a little less than what your Resident Evil remakes would sell, I mean, I would still love to see it. There's so much potential to have it back, have these characters back, get everything motion captured, you know, rebuild it from the ground up, really have a solid Dino Crisis game, because 1 really is one of my favorites right next to 2. I do love 2, like how it kind of ramped up the action a little bit more. And I like how it says in this last bit of the article here that the last game in the series was Dino Crisis 3, released in 2003, and since then reached a cult status. When the hell has Dino Crisis 3 reached a cult status? Yeah, maybe a cult status for being absolute shit, because that game, I'm sorry, is not very good. It does not stand out for the best Dino Crisis game. If anything, 1 and 2 have become more popular amongst horror fans as the years have gone on, because 1 and 2 were, you know, moderately successful, not as successful as Resident Evil back then, but a lot of fans have come around to the first and second one. So I don't know. I just don't think that Dino Crisis 3 has this cult status. I don't know what the hell they're thinking when they're writing this article, because, yeah, tell me anybody that is actually playing Dino Crisis 3 and they're just like, oh, this is a game that we slept on. No, it's completely different. It's dinosaurs in space. It doesn't have our original characters. It's very disconnected from 1 and 2, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I played it myself, never finished it because it was that bad. But, yeah, no, cult status for Dino Crisis 3, definitely not. As far as 1 and 2, though, a lot of fans want to see those games come back in a Resident Evil remake type fashion like Capcom has been doing for the recent RE titles. So what are your thoughts on Shinji's comments here? I mean, I think there's still room for a Dino Crisis remake in this case. I think the survey does speak for itself. A lot of people would like to see Dino Crisis. I think a lot of fans that are into Monster Hunter might, you know, look at that and be like, oh, I might check that out. Dino Crisis, that sounds pretty cool. You know, they might have not all checked out Exoprimal, but the concept might have not really been sold from the get-go. You know what I mean? I think it was a risk with Exoprimal, but they don't really seem to support it anymore. So I don't think Capcom would be completely done with dinosaurs unless they see Exoprimal and say, you know what, we're not going to do the dinosaur thing ever again. But that was before the survey that hit earlier this year. So who knows what their mindset is, you know? Because that's the thing. It's like if they didn't want to do dinosaurs at all, Monster Hunter was already one of their highest selling IPs before Exoprimal was even announced. So they wouldn't have even touched dinosaurs again if they felt that like Monster Hunter was covering their, you know, monster dinosaur-ish type creatures in one corner. They wouldn't have even attempted Exoprimal. So I don't really think that that's going to be the case for them never attempting Dino Crisis just because Monster Hunter is the dominant force in their franchises right now, right next to Resident Evil. I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts. I think that it could still happen. And obviously, like I said, Shinji is not inside Capcom anymore. So at this point, he's just kind of saying, you know, his personal thoughts, which again, I respect his opinions and that's perfectly fine. But I still think there's room for some Dino Crisis down the road. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. And don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe and stay tuned for more LTRE content. Take care.